The Fever Dreams of the Maltese Falcon, a Taipei Noir, year 2080. Episode 2. The warehouse gambling den wasn't very far. She went to the railway tracks next to her office and walked along them. The tracks divided the upside from the downside, and Lummix's office was right on the border. The warehouse had nothing to distinguish itself, made of scrap metal, with stacks of building materials stowed inside, and a bunch of busy robots moving around a whole lot of stuff. Lummix looked around for a human. Finally, she caught sight of old Mr. Liang. "Morning, Lao Liang. I need to get to the back." She pointed to the wall at the back of the space. "Sure, go in, Lummix. Nothing interesting has shown up, though. I promise you, I would have known otherwise." "Not looking for information, Lao Liang. This time, I need to find a guy. Luther, from Taichung. Know him?" Old Mr. Liang shook his head. "No, don't recall seeing a guy of that name, but sure, go and check." Lummix made her way to the back of the building, looking for the hidden door, a set of blocks of concrete made to look like the wall. The casino was a lucrative little side business belonging to old Mr. Liang's boss, Brother Du, a wise guy who was actually wise. He had become respectable since his days as a smuggler, but he kept the casino going out of nostalgia and a need to support his current mistress, strictly off the books. Truth be told, they weren't even trying to hide the illegal casino too hard, just enough to make it look respectable for the police so that it didn't look like they were taking bribes to look the other way as far as the casino was concerned. She punched in her code on the panel hidden on the floor under a brick. The door opened. She went in. There were rows and rows of people at old-fashioned jackpot machines pulling levers like they were zombies. They looked like they had been there for weeks and transfixed to the machines they were playing, so much so that a feeding tube was going into their veins directly from the machine and a catheter was leading out. They didn't have to get up to eat or to pee. She went to the back to a closet that looked like a broom closet. She opened the door to the closet. Once you were in, you went in through the door to the back of the closet and came to the card game room. Simple and real old school. The card game was the place where the real gambling happened. The serious high rollers congregated here. Things were kept simple. Heavy suede curtains, a bar, a green card game table, some chairs, and definitely no screens or cameras to be seen. Everything was strictly offline. The stale smell of neonicotine clung to everything. The room was empty, save for a man sitting with his back to her. He looked short and stocky. He fit the description of Luther. She went up to him and touched his shoulder. He slumped right over, dead. Very, very dead. And by the feel of him, had been dead for a while, shot in the chest once at close range. She quickly and methodically went through his pockets. There was an Imperial State ID with his name, social surveillance number, and holobiometrics. He had been drinking bubble milk tea, and the straw had dissolved, which means this had happened at least 12 hours before. And the tea had turned clear. The milk had vanished, a sign of nanobots, which explained why there was no blood. The nanobots absorbed human blood. There were no prints on the cup. Everything about this crime scene was perfectly staged and clean. It was so clean that it stank. It stank of a conspiracy. She was expected to find this body. She had been set up. The slot machine players up front were oblivious and useless to talk to. They wouldn't have seen or heard a thing. So no witnesses to Luther's murder. She looked around the room. A small window on the farthest wall looked out onto the back of the building. Lummix went to it and examined it carefully. It was too small. Nobody could have come or gone through it. She put on gloves and opened it just in case. It was a 20-foot drop from the window, and the earth below didn't look like it had been disturbed. Lummix came out of the gambling section. She looked for old Leon. "You got a stiff in the back there. Somebody shot him through the chest. Better take care of it. He's been dead for over 12 hours. Know anything about it?" "It was my day off. My routine virus rehab day," said old Leon. "Damn." Old Mr. Leon threw up his hand, with its 2 fingertips missing, up in the air. He was more exasperated than alarmed. He was a retired Yakuza man. He knew he couldn't make it look bad for the police, who turned a blind eye to the gambling, but this was murder. And the police were definitely going to ask questions. Lummix asked to see the surveillance footage. Nothing. It had been wiped clean. She took leave of old Mr. Leon and took the long route back to the office. She needed to think. She was sent to the gambling den in order to discover the body. The question was why? Lummix let herself into her office and went to her desk. She needed to inform the police, but she had to protect the kid, client rights, and all that. She needed to chart out her next moves, but before that, she needed a stiff drink. Lummix poured herself a generous shot of Galleon from the flask she kept in her drawer and sat down to think. She hadn't been at it for more than 5 minutes when the screen on her desk buzzed. It was Chung Ho, her old partner from the police force. Chung Ho looked worried. "Lummix, what do you know about the body at old Leong's warehouse?" "Nothing much, other than he is a guy called Luther, and is probably from Taichung." "Come clean, Lummix. I gotta tell you, you are in trouble. You are suspected of shooting him." "Why me? Just because I was the one to discover the body?" "Precisely that," said Chung Ho. "Come on, Chung Ho. In our line of work, we see bodies. Plenty of bodies. Very often dead. So what gives?" "I guess the guy was connected," said Chung Ho, conceding the point. "Ah, now we were getting somewhere," thought Lummix. So Luther was connected, eh? Connected to whom? Any of the usual suspects? Ugh, Chung Ho gave a non-committal grunt. That meant that someone or some people were involved in this thing, and they were going to pin Luther's murder on her. There were more people involved in this Luther and Mei Ling episode than she had thought. This wasn't a simple lost and found case. It was a lot more dangerous than that. Subscribe to Type A Noir on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcast. And please share with friends. Type A Noir is distributed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Non-Derivatives 4.0 International License, which means share it with your friends, but don't use it in your own work and don't sell it. See you on the downside.